Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Battle Brothers Season 3. As today, we may be bloody and beaten, but given our recent gains, I just can't help myself. I just can't walk away from a two-champ camp. I mean, look, that's 2 guaranteed named items, plus who knows what other treasures we'd be missing out on if we just left that stone unturned. That said, I'm not crazy, so, we're not going to just rush right in. Rather, we'll bide our time a bit. We'll take the circuitous approach. We'll circle around the sharp rocks here and give our guys some time to top back off. Honestly, they'll need it. Even topped off, I foresee that being a fairly challenging fight. 2 champions on top of a pile of chosen. But we can probably take it. We'll have to go all out, though. I've slotted a few consumables just for this fight. And yeah, nothing uncovered on our brief foray. Not surprising, it was pretty close to the Golden Throne. Thus reassured that there were no reinforcements within easy striking range, the raiders rallied on that strange sacred stone and set camp, biding their time till morning as Verlin completed his recovery, during which time they discussed how best to make their approach. Though there were some raiders who were still reticent, Random chief among them, telling tall tales of the twin terrors Hylle and Halfgoofa, whom had long haunted these hills. And yet, despite his tales of warning, rather than being cautioned, the anatomists found their curiosity piqued, soon set to speculating on exactly what manner of men these might actually be. Were they mere mortals like so many of their kin? Or were they perhaps something more akin to the frozen immortal they had encountered in yonder icy cave, once inhabited by the fearsome Ijirok? There's only one way to know for certain, and thus the company was ordered forward. An order they might soon come to regret, but, certainly wouldn't be the first time. For such is the lot of a raider. Good luck, guys. Yep, that's a lot of chosen. And Halfgoofa the Bloodletter himself, rocking what looks to be a named helm. Okay. As well as Hylle Slaughterborn, wearing what looks like a named set of body armor. In fact, I think a matched pair to the helm. So between the two, we've got a full matching set. That's actually really fun. Does kind of lend itself to the idea that they are in fact kin, siblings perhaps, or maybe father and son. And, normally, while I love the look of the barbarian gear, I don't tend to use it because it's too cumbersome, but I might make an exception for named gear. It might actually be good enough to justify using. And, I'm just a sucker for a matched set. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We have to survive actually taking it first, which is easier said than done. And thus the raiders braced themselves, weapons readied, nerves steadied as they waited their enemy's approach. And they didn't have to wait for long, Halfgoofa leading the charge, eager to live up to his namesake. Hylle not far behind. And then, as if the veritable floodgates had opened, the rest of the ruffians rushed forth, each eager to claim their share of the blood yet spilt. raiders simply held steady, snow crunching underfoot, breath puffing in measured gasps against the frigid air. They knew their best bet here was not to immediately engage the twin terrors, but rather to focus down the weaker warriors, for in doing so they would not only cull the camp, but also weaken the will of the overall warband. Valin clutched a peculiar flask in one hand, the contents sloshing dangerously, but seeing his primary targets too far, he instead hefted the weight of his familiar javelin. Pinning the closest warrior in place, cutting a bloody furrow across the side of his head, whilst Trip dipped his own blade into a bottle of vile goblin brew, then hucked a weighted net, slowing Hylle's approach. And Zarmal did the same, though again finding his own target too far. Instead advanced, poisoning the closest chosen in line. The warrior's muscles suddenly growing weary, his movements sluggish. An arrow simply piled it on, firing into the armored mass. Diego braced on north, preparing to hold the line. Rax moving up as well. Lopping the arm off an otherwise battle-ready Rowdy. But on south, the rest of the raiders held back, not particularly keen to immediately rush into Halfgoofa's striking range. Yeah, hold here. Just keep a line drawn. We'll wait for them to approach. And then immediately hammer them when they do. And with one last strike, Cetrus claimed the first kill. A mighty chosen reduced to ruin, crushed neath Hammer's heel. Halfgoofa slowed his hasty assault, suddenly veering off. Watching warily even as Verlin impaled another warrior. Then softened Hylle himself, still entangled as he was in the company's net. Zarmal perforated a peon, the poor fellow's blood running thick with poison. Whilst Trip impaled another through the elbow, likewise envenoming his veins. And another assortment of warriors warily circled on north. Arrow tracking Halfgoofa's advance. Random as well, though neither significantly slowed his approach. Ooh. Rook finally gave one warrior pause, breaking his will with a strike from the banner. Though almost simultaneously, Zarmal's head reeled back, clipped by a nasty spiked mace, his nose crushed in, blood bubbling through the chain mesh covering his face. And Rax hacked another warrior through, blood spewing violently. Pressurized jets spraying across the terrain as the warrior teetered and tottered, but just barely avoided falling down. Verlin forced a fighter back, then stepped up in his place. halting Hafgufa's advance. Whilst Setris struck down a second savage, then stepped up on North, warding a pack of primitives off their back line. Seymore slaughtered another sap on center, but stayed where he was, as Hylle's Slaughterborn finally shucked off that reinforced net that had so briefly bulked his bull rush. Seymore wrecked another ruffian turn to run, then looked back to the rest of the company. Trouble, lads. And then Hylle was upon them, rushing straight in, sights. Ooh, goodness. Sight set on his twisted twin Rax, adorned as he was in blood-red armor that was otherwise of identical make. So I'm all bloodied, the rest of the raiders just barely holding their own. Val briefly weighed the vial in his hand once more, but realizing that there was no longer a good opportunity to use it, he grabbed for his axes instead. One finding its way deep into Knave's knee. Rax looked up the hill, and with a mighty heave, nearly took the warrior's head straight from his armored shoulders, blood gurgling forth, spilling over the putrid patina of his ancient armor. And yet still the Slaughterborn refused to fall. Rook shouted over the clamor, his words indistinct but intent clear, as he directed the company to focus downhill. Trip gouged away at another goon, leaving him dumbstruck and disjointed, whilst Giannis, spying the blood-gushing gash left by Rax's axe, hacked his own blade in place as well, and then with a wrench, a vicious twist of his wrist, the Khopesh carved the rest of the way through, the once mighty warrior's head rent loose, tumbling heavily to the ground, much to the horror of the other hooligans nearby. And yet still they fought, some perhaps simply unaware that the first of their champions had fallen. Fixated as they were, encircling behind. And Hafgufa, of course, if he were even aware of his kin's fate, was too entrenched in his own battle as well, leaving a mere half-dozen, perhaps, to have witnessed the Slaughterborn slaughter, with several of those soon to fall as well. Though, you know, maybe the drummers will get away, tell the tale. They are a bit of a ways out, and we've certainly got bigger concerns. Finding himself under threat, Valen grabbed for his spear, a gout of flame briefly giving goons pause. Rax racking another ruffian's ribs. Zarmal finishing him off, even as he frantically tried to wipe the blood from his face with his free hand. Then falling back towards center, somewhere slightly safer perhaps, at least till he could get the bleeding contained. Diego stayed dug in on North, buying Zarmal time, as Arrow... Ooh. And on South, Verlin staggered now, finally caught by one of Hafgufa's ham-fisted blows. Black Hood going sodden as it was soaked through with blood. Rook quickly rallied. No. gosh, okay. Setris, stricken as well. The caravan... Oh, okay. This is getting out of hand. Verlin teetered, barely staying upright. Setris stricken as well. Badly wounded, but still desperately holding the north. The last line of defense between barbarians and back line. Diego's shield splintering neath repeated blows. Giannis hastily trying to clear the last of the center line so he could regroup towards rear. And all the while, those accursed drums beat. The raiders taking a second to collect their thoughts. And with a mighty heave, Verlin lunged back, Random reluctantly taking his place. Not ideal, but he just had to hold out for a moment. Though Verlin immediately found himself pinned down nonetheless. Trip bloodied as well. Valin's arm snapped like a twig, hanging useless at his side. Caustic cask falling from numbed fingers. Forgotten in the snow. Sarmal reluctantly stumbled forth, unshouldering his net, desperately buying Verlin time. Trip hobbled his own hooligan, and Random staggered, unharmed but stunned. Rax removing one last pest, then surging south to reinforce the rear. Oh, gosh. Setris uttered a yelp, his hand crushed. Bones cracked and will broken. That was a problem. The caravan hand was no coward. But every man had their limit. And so the raiders swiftly rallied, doing their best to cover his escape. Giannis charged forward, cutting another cad down, though too exhausted to take another step. Seymore sweeping the skull from Savage's shoulders before setting into the one beside. Trip finally freed up. Thank goodness for that. And Verlin quickly pushed past. Trip reluctantly, again taking his place, seeking to buy him some time. Valin, against his better judgment, Valin took two quick stabs. He had hoped to finish his foe, but the fellow was simply too stubborn to fall. But Setris's escape seemed, at least for the moment, to be... Shit. Oh yeah, he's dead. And Setris finally fell, his frantic escape cut short by the flash and clash of a heavy blade. Body, broken and bloodied, finally dragged down by the weight of his heavy plate. Sorry, Setris. I tried, man. And thus the price of their hubris paid in blood. The raiders grimly set about the task of making sure no more would follow in his stead. Hastily hammering away at foes where Setris couldn't. Rax hacking a leg through. And Hafgufa suddenly finding himself on the back foot. As one by one, the warriors around him were so violently disassembled. I mean, I can't even be mad about that, really. We've cut down dozens of fleeing foes. It's not like it's dirty pool or anything. It's simply accepted on the battlefield. Setris tried to escape. He didn't make it. Sorry, dude. I will say, though, it could have certainly been worse. I mean, losing someone like Verlin or Zarmal would have hurt us a lot more. Setris was a solid hammer bro, but still at his most basic, a mid-tier recruit. One whom had, at this point, also kind of served his purpose. The main reason you bring in a caravan hand at all is just to unlock that extra storage space, which he did. And once they do that, they don't have any other events that can trigger. So while it pains me to say it, he is one of the characters I've long had in my death pool. Doesn't take the sting out of it, though. I hate losing anyone. Trip choked, knuckles wrapped, fingers bent askew. Zarmal hanging back, catching his breath. Rax rushing round the rear. Hafgufa finally having had the fight. All but beaten out of him, now seeking his own exit. Covered by two cads who had yet to give up the fight. Random swung wide, splattering the skull of one surrendered warrior. Not entirely intended, but certainly not something to regret. At the very least, it opened up avenue of approach for the other remaining warrior. Which... no, Seymore did not take because he preferred being able to breathe. Arrow shot the netted ne'er-do-well through. Giannis lacerating ligaments. As he exchanged blows on North. Verlin moved in. Hafgufa was in no condition to fight, so... No, the bloodied anatomist found his common sense and simply held back. There are plenty of other raiders who could cut down the champion. Trip, finally skewering the stranded savage. And the beat began to fade. The drums on a roll. And honestly, at this point, the raiders were apt to let them go. They could go tell the tale of the mighty Hylle and Hafgufa's demise. The noble death of Setris, who had held the north until he simply could not. Man, I really hope this is worth it. We better get something nice. Also, one of the chosen clambered back to his feet, initially giving the party pause. And then, more pause as they realized it was, in fact, another one of Trip's thralls. The thief wearily waving them off. And Hafgufa finally met his end. Crushed neath random flail. The final warrior's broken. The fight at an end. I hope. I mean, technically we do still have one fighting on south, but random's at full health. So I mean, honestly, at this point... Oh, for goodness sake, buddy, it's over. Just roll over already. Yes. At last. At last, the battlefield fell silent. But for the gasps of the weary and the groans of the soon-to-be dead. And we're good. You know, relatively speaking, we're good. I mean... Like I said, it sucks to lose Cetrus, but it certainly could have been worse. Though, man, we really came close with several of the others. Verlin, Trip, Zarmal. But on the bright side, it does mean that we can now finally bring in someone new. Been a while since I've busted out the waiting list. And yeah, we definitely need another backliner. Ideally, a backup banner man. For those times that Rook is otherwise indisposed. Man, double headshots on Verlin, that is rough, bud. It's amazing you're still upright. Alright, let's see if this was in fact worth it. Okay. Okay, wow, that's actually pretty solid. And the Conqueror's Ancient Sallet. Which is actually also pretty good. It's slightly better than the named helm we already had in stock. Also this Malignant Punisher, named Whip. Nice little bonus, I suppose. So, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say that was, in fact, worth it. We lost a level 13 caravan hand, but got a fairly solid set of armor, a matching set of armor, in return. Which will no doubt go towards whoever takes his place. Or perhaps whoever takes the place of the next to fall, because, I mean, you know it's happening, no one lives forever. Not in a game like this. And doubly so when we're still setting our sights on things like the Goblin City and the Obsidian Monolith. Less certain about the Kraken now, though, because, man, that, actually, that was something we kind of needed Cetrus for, a dedicated hammer bro. To crack that thing's carapace. So I suppose whoever replaces him will also need to be handy with a hammer. Or a pole hammer, I suppose. But we'll see what we can drum up. Maybe an Oath Taker? I think they get pretty decent morale. No notable events, though. I mean, that's the real bummer with those guys. All the events in their event pool are unique to their custom campaign. Sorry, I'm still a bit shell-shocked, just trying to clear my head. I might take a moment once we've gathered our loot. I think we've got a few more involved level ups in the queue anyway. I'd want to take a look at our options there. Yeah, that's fine. On we go. Corpse in tow. We'll give him a proper burial back in town. Alright, Raiders. Wounded on the bench. We'll also have to try to pass through a town with a temple so we can get all those properly patched. Which I suppose does kind of delay our hunt for the Goblin City, though just as well, I suppose. I don't think it's up here in the north. We kind of started on the wrong side. Anyway, yeah, one sec. I'm gonna go decompress. And we're back. Wounded, weary, but still mostly intact. The bulk of us, anyway. And with a few who are better for their time in the field. You know, even with our recent loss, there are some who still continue to grow. Starting with Giannis, who actually hit soft cap. Congratulations, bud. Which I think at this point means we're just about ready to go ahead and lock in that cleaver. And given that he was one of the characters we skipped Colossus on, I guess we will grab Duelist, which, you know, is one that I often lamented we hadn't taken on some of our other bros. That should make a significant difference. Yeah, because he currently penetrates armor with 0 to 21 damage per swing. Which is now more than doubled, 0 to 43. That's pretty exceptional. And again, really makes me wish we'd pick that up for Mal. As for stats, pretty straightforward, I think. We kind of flubbed the MDef, which is unfortunate. But we'll take the melee, we'll take the... Actually, maybe we won't take the RDef. No, we will. We want that at 15 or higher. But we'll put the last one, I think, in... Probably in Resolve, honestly. He's lower than I'd like there, and we saw how dangerous that can get in the midst of a massive fight. 3 extra points isn't going to make much difference, but it certainly doesn't hurt. And Seymore hits 10, and he is basically following the exact same build as Giannis. Though in his case, I think we'll go ahead and lock him in on that cleaver slightly early, since again, at this point we're really just embracing the fact they keep giving us all these unique cleavers. And then at 11, he'll grab the other 2, Duelist and Killing Frenzy. But yeah, with him it's doubly important we give him specialization, because he is wielding our other Orc Cleaver. So that'll give him an extra swing before he has to catch his breath. And then as far as stats go, I think pretty straightforward. We'll skip the +2 in melee, since again, I think we really do need to shore up that resolve. Though man, he actually needs health as well. I would like to push him up over 70. We're already at 15 in RDef, so I mean we could theoretically skip that one. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We'll grab health, we'll grab resolve, push those towards more acceptable minimum amounts. He does have one more full level up to look forward to. And Trip. Legacy level, so very straightforward. Yeah, we'll go straight down the line. Melee plus double defense. I'd skimp on the RDef, but he's a bit more vulnerable than the more heavily armored bros. Also, let me make sure we've got everything tagged for repair. And the Raiders finally set their sights back on civilization. Their extended trek into the wilderness cut slightly short, though maybe not entirely. Yeah, we've still got a decent amount of food. So rather than heading straight back, why don't we do this? We'll carve a quick line off, then hook east to Damwald, which will also put us right near Witchmount Hills, which is where we need to be to more swiftly complete our current contract. So yeah, we'll probably knock that out as well, since as established earlier, we're kind of in the wrong area. I don't think we're going to find the Goblin City this far north. Oh, though apparently we are now in Greenskin territory, so not as far south as I thought. Though this is specifically orcs. I think orcs and goblins do maintain their own territories outside of the current crisis event. And despite their weariness, the raiders, remembering the reason they had come out here in the first place, grasped their weapons once more. Well, they were indeed eager for R&R. A raider's work, as ever, was never done. And to be fair, this would be a relatively easy one, especially after what they'd just been through. Orcs certainly weren't harmless, but at the same time, they were a well-known and oft overcome threat. Even for the likes of Random, who had long since inured himself to the fear they might have otherwise instilled. Not, of course, that the orcs would know that. They clamored and clattered and champed at the bit as they charged forth, trying to intimidate their foes upon approach, to reduce them to quivering puddles of fear. But, of course, they didn't get the desired effect. Instead, seeming perplexed as the raiders immediately advanced, meeting them halfway. Some particularly keen to whet their blades, having missed the previous slaughter. Now given opportunity to prove their worth, or simply to sate their bloodlust. Though, I'm sure none of the current raiders have that problem. We're all perfectly normal and sane. As evidenced by Drak peeling half the scalp off that Orcan skull. Arrow took another berserker through the throat. The chain-wielding warrior stumbling and staggering as blood pooled at his feet. Diego moved up, ready to hold the north, hopefully with slightly more success than last time around. Not that he was really at fault, I mean, that whole fight went pretty off the rails. And Sigmar surged forth. Berserker bisected, the one beyond just barely dodging the blow. Mallet aside, briefly stunned, though otherwise unharmed. Random wrecking the nose of another. Though warily eyeing the monster wielding a man-splitter in front. Drak losing some blood, but nothing to worry about there. There's plenty lying around he can claim. Yeah, see? Topped himself off nicely with a fountaining geyser of blood. Goodness knows the previous owner has no more need of it, nor the one run through by Rook's Pike. Arrow angled shots overhead. Raining pain upon the plain. As Diego discouraged a dastard. And Rax rotated in. Seymore slashed an orc's side. Sigmar pushing north, knowing as he did that Rax was one step ahead. Mark fired after a fleeing orc, blasting off its hand. And yeah, the fight was pretty much done. A few bumps and bruises here and there, but certainly nothing to fret about. Drak drawing blood once more. Glutting on hemoglobin. Hemogoblin? You know, there was actually a C-list supervillain named Hemogoblin. Yeah, he was about as lame as he sounds. Fun, though. Honestly, that was the thing that always attracted me to comics in the first place, and... Wow. Nicely done, Seymore. Yeah, that was why I got into comics in the first place. Just the general cheesiness, the inherent silliness of even the serious comics, trying to imagine a world where all that nonsense was just the standard status quo. And we're good. Obviously an easy one, but nice to have an easy one every so often to help us unwind, especially after a tougher fight like the one we had earlier. Plus a few extra coins, and a level up for Rax. Certainly welcome. Even if it is just a legacy level. I am tempted to grab that Berserker mushroom, but personally, I never use them because I don't think it's worth the defense malice. So, yeah, we'll just leave it behind. Don't really need the paint either. All the helmets we're getting at this point are named and thus can't be repainted. Oh, you know what? I forgot to re-equip poisons and such. That would have freed up some extra slots. There we go. Though we cannot yet re-equip nets. Because we are completely out of those. We actually have to head further south to restock on those as well. So I guess it's just as well we need to go down there to continue hunting for the Goblin City. Since that will simultaneously give us a chance to restock on nets, which as we've seen are invaluable tools. Oh, and Rax, right. Let's go ahead and get you taken care of, buddy. Melee, double defense, you're fine everywhere else. His defense is actually lower than I realized. We'll have to be slightly more careful with him, I think. He's actually about the same level as Setris, which, you know, was a very sobering moment, seeing Setris go down like that. Setris was also, I want to say, in the mid-30s. Nah. No, we're good. We're out of space, so we'll save that for the trip back out. But yeah, generally speaking, I consider 30 plus to be a safe range on defense, but when you're up against really dangerous foes, that's simply not the case. You know, in those cases, it's the guys with 40 plus that are more reasonable to run, though, I mean, even characters with 60 might still be in danger. Verlin's got 60 on melee defense. And he still took 2 headshots. Which I suppose just goes to show that at the end of the day, you're still ultimately at the mercy of the RNG. Even the highest defense can still be hit on a 1 through 5. Anyway, we'll head back to Damwald, and I think that'll be a good place to pause. We'll hold there whilst I take care of the usual off-screen bookkeeping, and then next time we'll hit up Witchmount Hills, finish that quest, duck back north real quick to turn it in, and then take it south towards Lounstadt. Oh, for goodness sake. Flesh torn asunder, parts of man rendered unfamiliar, a copper stench in the air. These are the things you find when beckoned by a brother's call. Drakiith the Flagellant stooped over on a stump, his whole body unmoving save for his arm which flicks a glass and thorn-peppered whip against his own back. A gargling belch draws your eyes to Tommy Two-Tone, who is bent over in the tall grass losing his lunch. Sensing that he is disturbing the others, Drakiith cracks something of a smile that doesn't falter an inch to the horror he's committing to his own hide. Fear not the Reaper, Tommy. I shall bleed even more in favor of saving your soul. Oh, Drak, buddy, yeah, this is becoming a problem, my man. We really gotta get this under control. Not that we really have a lot of options, other than, I suppose, firing you, letting you die, or preferably hiring a monk, since it is possible that a monk can convince a flagellant to knock that shit off. Though there's also a chance that a flagellant can convince a monk to start doing it. Bit of a two-way street there. Yeah, but we gotta do something. Alright, okay, so, that said, I think we've got a pretty good game plan here. We'll hit Damwald, we'll hold there. I'll take care of the usual off-screen bookkeeping, clear our carts. Get some rest. I don't think we don't have a temple here, so we can't patch our guys, unfortunately. We'll have to head for Loundstat for that. But we can at least lighten our load. Which is actually ideal considering they've currently got the ambush trade routes that increases local buy prices. That said, we'll hit the pause button for now. I will take care of the aforementioned bookkeeping, get Cetra squared away, pour one out in his memory, and start scouting for a replacement. And we will pick up here next time. As when you fall off that horse, you just witch mount back up. Ride's not over yet. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Eerie V23, Revenant, Alois, Bowman, Drakiith, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Lady Shayna, Mark Giemza, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.